Hello everyone, welcome to another video from Fantasy Football Scout. Josh and I are turning our attention to FanTeam this week. Josh, I'm rusty, I've been off for a week, I've been having Wi-Fi issues all morning, but we're here, the stream's working, there's people in the chat. How you doing?
We'll look at it from the perspective that you're well rested, I think. Let's go with that.
I felt I didn't have a holiday after this morning. It's been a nightmare.
It's always the way, mate, especially like after a holiday. If you've done loads of stuff and had loads of fun, then like you almost feel like you need a couple of days off, don't you? But I'm sure the Wi-Fi hasn't helped you. But I'm good. I haven't had any holidays, so I'm just in normal mode, normal working mode, so it's fine.
But you have had some success with the WCOFF FanTeam game, haven't you? Got a little place finish.
I got very, very lucky, mate. So I took after the first week, because it was a 2-week tournament. After the first week, I just hadn't had a good week. It was all very average. I was like around 200th or 300th on like all my teams. I just haven't quite found like a good combination. So I decided to take on Salah, basically. So I picked zero Salah. I captained zero Salah. I knew 50% of the people would captain him and pick him and stuff. And obviously he blanked, and that's how I like just shot up. I had Sterling captain on one where I got a hat-trick. So yeah, it was...
Oh, nice.
I just got super lucky. Yeah. I took Salah on, and it was a fool's decision, but I got lucky with it this time. So yeah, I got some money back, so I was really happy.
Yep, very nice. We're not talking about that Modi today. I don't want to hear you gloating anymore. We're going to be talking about the FanTeam UEFA Champions League knockout game. There is €250,000 worth of prizes up for grabs. There's €50,000 for first place. It's €25 to enter, or £21. There's a bonus code as well. It's first deposit bonus. If you enter FFSCOUT into FanTeam when you make your first deposit as a new user, and then you buy a ticket into the UCL game, you'll get a free ticket as well. So if you're not a member of FanTeam and you haven't joined FanTeam yet and you're interested in playing, that's a good way to do it, because you'll get a free ticket. Of course, it is £21. There is an entry fee into this, which is different to FPL. It means it's a form of gambling. Gamble responsibly. Only gamble with funds that you can afford to lose, and don't gamble beyond your means, of course. And if you're worried about your gambling habits, go to gambleaware.co.uk. Right, so let's talk through this game. We're going to give a bit of an overview about the rules of the UCL game. We're going to look at the prize breakdown, and Josh has been preparing endless notes on which players to select, which is good because I'm massively underprepared for this stream after having dealing with my Wi-Fi. So this is kind of the graphic for the game. As I said, there's €250,000 guaranteed, 50,000 to first place prize. If you played in the group stages game, which I don't think either of us did that well on, did we? Or did you win any money on that?
Certainly not. No.
No, me neither. But it's kind of the same kind of general rules as that game, really. Is there any major changes on that? The safety nets in and all that kind of stuff. It's pretty standard.
No, so I think what's happened is there's been some changes compared to last year, but I think if you've played the group stage game this year, I think it's a lot of the same stuff in the knockout game, which is really nice to have that consistency, I think.
Yep. And it starts tomorrow, 15th of February. So yeah, Champions League is back, baby, which I forgot about until recently. I don't know. The Premier League's been so crazy, hasn't it, in terms of like the blanks and the doubles and everything. And I forget. Like, I love the Champions League, so I'm so happy to have the knockout stages back. There's some cracking games.
It's this big gap as well, mate. Like, because it almost disappears for 3 months. Like, almost, it's like December, January, half of February. We don't see any Champions League football, so it's quite a bizarre gap if you think about it. Like, to have the 6 games, then just such a big gap, and then it must be to do with winter breaks and stuff in all the various leagues, I think. But yeah, it's good to have it back, and I think we'll be boom, boom, boom on the Champions League till all the way to the end of the season, I think, because it's going to come thick and fast.
Yep, agreed. Let's talk through the rules. So the rules are on the screen now. So Gameweek 7 is the first game week of the £250,000 Champions League knockout stage. Haven't really got to worry about that. Just know that it starts afresh tomorrow. The contest is played over 7 game weeks, starting in Game Week 7 and ending with Game Week 13, which is obviously the final. You've got a budget of 100 million to build your team, build a squad of 11 players. 1 goalkeeper, 3 defenders, 2 mids and 1 forwards. All pretty simple so far. You can pick a match with 3 players from 1 UCL team for game weeks 7 and 8, and then it increases to 4 players for game weeks 9 and 10, 5 players for game weeks 11 and 12, and then 6 players from 1 team for the grand final. Who do you reckon is going to be in the final? Just before we get into it all, what do you reckon? Early thoughts? Give me 1 team you think is going to make the final.
I mean, like Man City, but no, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, that's how I feel. I think they're the best team by absolutely miles, but they just seem to find a way to not do it. So let's go Bayern Munich. I'm going to say Bayern Munich. There you go.
I'm going to say City. I'm going to say this is going to be City's year.
I hope so. I almost hope so now. I almost feel a bit sorry, and you shouldn't feel sorry for a multi-billionaire team, but like they should have got to the final by now. Like, they've been the best team, well, one of the best teams in it for like 5 years now, and like they just haven't even got close to. They haven't even flirted with it really. So I hope they get to the final at least.
I still think PSG are the favourites, right? Like, they've got to be with the three they've got up front and Pochettino as manager, but. They got Real Madrid straight away.
That's what I was about to say. I mean, Real Madrid aren't what they once were, so like there is that to be considered. PSG are quite a bit better than Real Madrid at the moment, I think. But like City have got Sporting Lisbon. Like, it's like, you know what I mean? They're not comparable sort of fixtures, so it's definitely advantage City with how the fixtures have dropped. But PSG's squad is amazing, especially the attackers.
It's just whatever mad thing Pep decides to do between now and the final. He always does. Remember when he played like De Bruyne on the right wing against who was it? They lost. I think it was a French team. They lost to them a couple of years ago. Then last year in the final, he didn't play any defensive midfielders, and I don't know. He's a strange manager in the Champions League. I don't really know what he's playing at sometimes, but. Yeah, I think this is probably the time. Anyway, we're going to talk more about this in a sec. Going back to the rules, you're going limited changes to your teams until the contest starts tomorrow, obviously. Captain and vice-captain. Captain scores double points. Your vice scores double if your captain doesn't play. 3 transfers for game weeks 8, 10, 12 and 13. And then other transfers cost 4 points each. So 3 free transfers a week, essentially, is that?
Yeah, so... there's something else you'll read out in a minute, but in weeks 8, 10, 12, 13, you get 3 transfers. So it's very, very generous. We're typically accustomed to only having 1 per week in the same scenario. So I think 3 is very generous, and it gives you a chance to adjust based on where you are. So like if you need to play catch up, you can get 3 differentials in. If you're doing really well, you can just do your transfers as you normally would and try and continue doing well. So yeah.
It was Leon. Thanks, Nuclear Atoms in the chat, who Pep lost to when he played De Bruyne rowing. So this is the rule you'll talk about. 2 enforced wildcards, which come through in game weeks 9 and 11. Enforced wildcards, that's interesting. Have we seen that before in a FanTeam tournament? I don't think I've seen that before.
I don't think so in football. Maybe they had 1 on the Champions League last year, but it definitely makes it a lot more accessible for everyone, I think, because you just have to think about it in 2-week chunks. Basically, you just think about the last 16, then you get a wild card, then the last 8, then you get a wild card, and then you just have to set your team for the semis and final. So, it really splits it out into nice, simple blocks, I think, and it means you don't have to worry about like what the next draw might be or who might play who in the semi-finals. It's just you think about your team now for the next 2 games, and then you get to reset it in 2 weeks. So, I think nice. I think it's a nice format for like even someone like myself who just like maybe just doesn't want to spend 5 hours, 10 hours a week planning my Champions League team. I think you can just do it like where you do your transfers, move on to the next week, do your transfers, do your wildcard, etc. So, nice, easy format.
Yeah, no, very nice. You cannot save or roll over your transfers or wildcards as well. So those 3 transfers you mentioned and the wildcards. You have to use those in designated week. Is one extra time and penalty shootouts are not included in any scoring. I mean, penalty shootouts, obviously, if you've got a goal for a penalty, it's going to be weird. But extra time is an interesting one, not to be included in that. So once the 90 minutes is up, you can just sit back and relax and enjoy the second half. I think that's almost nice. Yeah, it's nice to have that. Just enjoying the football side of it, because extra time is a really fun thing to watch, I think, in general, like pretty much no matter what the game is, really, because
two teams have battled it out. They couldn't be separated, and you get to just try and see who's going to win from that point. FanTeam never tend to include extra time, so they've just stayed consistent there, and it's just purely 90 minutes. So, all good.
Safety net is active. If a player does not start, he'll be replaced by the next price descending starting player from the same club and position for that game week only. So if you're not familiar with FanTeam, the safety net is basically the tool to ensure that if you pick your players in a smart way, you'll basically always guarantee yourself an 11 out. So Josh and I have talked about this on lots of different videos before, but essentially if you're picking a player from sort of Man City, for example, say you pick De Bruyne, he's 12 million. If he doesn't start, you'll then get Mahrez. If Mahrez doesn't start, you'll then get Sterling, and so forth and so down. If you were to pick Fernandinho, for example, who's 7 million, and he didn't play, you wouldn't get anyone, because he is the cheapest player in that team. So the safety net's really important to make sure that you kind of cover yourself to make sure you get a squad out each week. But we'll be talking about that probably a bit more in this video going on. From game week 8 onwards, the game week deadline for transfers and team change is 90 minutes prior to the first kickoff of that week. So make sure you lock those in and pay attention to that. No price changes throughout the tournament, which is nice. Haven't got to worry about that. I'm going to be checking any price rise websites or anything trying to work out who's going to go up and down. The late registration deadline is 6:30 on March the 8th, 90 minutes before game week 8. So if you do miss the deadline for tomorrow and you're devastated about that, or if you want to make another team, you can do that right up until March the 8th. You get 95% of the average score. So if you entered the team like I do in pretty much every fan team I enter, and I score less than the average, then you can enter this team and pretty much be ahead of me. And the final thing is what I've already mentioned, £21, €25 entry, and the guaranteed prize pool is fixed at €250,000. Lovely. Right, before we come on to Josh's cheat sheet for this tournament, let's just have a quick look at the payouts. So as I mentioned, rank 1 is €50,000. Second is 15,000. Third is 7,000. Fourth is 5,000. Fifth is 3,000. Sixth is 2,000, and then from 7th to 10th, you're looking at between 1,750 and €1,000. And this basically descends right the way down to if you place 1,750th in the world, you'll get €50 back. So again, FanTeam give a lot of prizes out for this. How many do you reckon are going to enter this, Josh? I like when you give a random prediction. How many have we got at the moment?
It's not. So
1,708 at the moment.
I was going to say it's no more than the minimum number of payouts. So I was going to say that was what I was. Let's go 8,000. I don't know, 8,000.
8,000. There you go.
I think that's quite optimistic, but they might get that.
Plucked out of the air. So yeah, that's it's not. Say they did have. Say they had 6,000. You're looking at kind of a top 35% finish, something like that, 40% to double your money. Which if you take it seriously and listen to Josh, you've got a chance of doing that. Right. Speaking of Josh, speaking of your come on master, what have you got for us? Let's go through. We're going through by position, best picks for the game, and we're going to build a team as well as we go.
Let's do it. Right. Is the screen up? Yeah, there we go.
Screen is up.
I can see it now. I'm on like a 2-second delay to see your screen, obviously, so I have to just wait that 2 seconds to see it on the screen. But there we go. Should we start at the back or the front? What do you want us?
Let's start at the back. So I always like to start at the back.
So I think I look at the fixtures, and the one that sticks out to me is Chelsea against Lille. I just think Chelsea have got it in them to keep a clean sheet or two. Now, I'll preface that by saying they haven't been great defensively in recent times, but I do think when you consider price and opposition, I think Chelsea have got a really good shot of at least one clean sheet over the 2 legs, which is we've obviously got to be thinking about the 2 legs when we set our teams right now. So I think basically it's personal preference on the Chelsea defenders. I think they're all remarkably similarly priced, and they're all going to be the safety net for each other in a lot of cases, if that makes sense. So depending on what other defence we pick, I think Mendy's fine, and I think all the defenders are fine pretty much as long as you stay above like the 7.5 million mark. So just don't pick Sarr or something who might be like 6.5. Or
what do you think about Reece James then? Because he's 8 million, but obviously they're going to get the safety net of Azpilicueta, Rudiger, Alonso all the way down. He's going to be back at some point, you'd imagine. And if we're expecting, Chelsea to do well in this, he could be a bit of a left field move.
I mean, as we've talked about, we're only setting our team for 2 weeks and then we get to completely pick it again. So it's just a case of will he be back for the first or second leg? Now, as you said, I think the second legs start on the 8th of March, I think it is, as you said about the late registering, I think. So Reece James has got about 2-3 weeks to get back. I mean, could he be back for the second leg? I think very possibly. And if you don't like him, as I said, if you need to save 0.5 at any point, there's a plethora of them at 7.5. So you've got Azpilicueta, Rudiger, Alonso, Christensen, Thiago, who will all be the safety nets for each other, if that makes sense. So if any of those don't play, you'll get one of the other ones. And just in case anyone's interested, obviously there's no price changes on this. So it'll be sorted by form. So like obviously actually they do all have form on here at the moment. So if you picked Azpilicueta, for example, and he didn't play, you would get Rudiger because he's got the highest form at the moment. Given that they're all the same price, that's the second tiebreaker to decide who you get. So,
is that form based from the knockout?
This must be based on the group stages.
The group stages, yeah.
It must be because I can't see where else it would have came from. To be honest, I was almost half expecting all the forms to be 0, but now I'm looking down the page. Rudiger's got 6.38, Christensen's got 6.24, so it must be from the group stage, yeah. So
stick Rudiger in.
Yeah, I like Rudiger, I like James, I like Azpilicueta. I think those have been my 3 maybe. Yeah, but as you say, if Alonso randomly starts one, you might get lucky and get him as a safety net. You might get Christensen. I'm pretty sure Thiago Silva will play most of the Champions League games, so I think he'd be a safe pick as well. Maybe for people entering more than one team, I'd actually just try different combinations of the Chelsea defenders in different teams to just see if you can catch a goal or something, or some sort of attack in return, just to boost, to be the differentiator between all the defenders, basically. Do you fancy this clean sheet as well, by the way? Do you think this is a fair shot against Lille?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Chelsea they've been off, haven't they, on winning the Club World Cup or whatever it's called. Lots of talk about, what that trophy actually means and all that. But to me, it's not about, just winning that trophy, okay, but it's to get there, right? It's the journey they've had. It's kind of almost a reminder of their run to the final and beating Man City in the final last year. It brings all those memories kind of back. So I think they're going to be going into this full of confidence, massively buoyed. They needed it as well because they've been so poor, really, for a while in the Premier League. And it's a good game for them on paper, isn't it? Against Lille. And at home, first of all, I mean, yeah, you've got to think this is going to be a comfortable first leg win for them.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess the other team with a really obvious good fixture is Man City now. It might be that we want some of their attackers more so than their defenders, so you need to weigh that up, like whether you want to have a double up in midfield or one of the defenders. But I particularly like Laporte's price. He's 7 million, which comes in below the Chelsea defenders. I think that's a particularly kind price. He's got a safety net of Ake, Stones and Zinchenko, so I think he'll be safe if he doesn't play for whatever reason. I think you'll get Stones or Ake probably. So you're not worried about the safety net there. Cancelo's 8.5. It's a big jump, but if you're going for the double up, those are still my favourite too. So it would be Cancelo and Laporte, I think. I never pick Edison on fantasy games, do you? I just think there's not the save upside there, is there? But
and you get more rewards on FanTeam as well for saves, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, if you fancy Sporting Lisbon to have a lot of shots for whatever reason, then Edison could still be viable. But I think on a defensive double up, I'd favour Cancelo and Laporte, I think. But I do recognise that the attackers are so tempting on this game where you're basically going to guaranteed get 2 of them if you pick sensibly. So it's just a case of whether you think they're going to go for like the 2-0 route or the 5-1 route, basically. So I think that'll be... if I do a few entries, I'll do some back in the 5-1 route and some back in like the 2-0 results route, I think, and see if one of them can do really, really well.
Yeah, good point from Dom in the chat as well that Kyle Walker's suspended for this. Yeah. So below him, you've got Ake at 7, Laporte 7, Zinchenko 7, and Stones. So you're going to get 2 of those players playing because Cancelo's surely going to move over to right back and then Zinchenko's going to come in at left back. I mean, that's almost certainly he's going to play there. So... grabbing Laporte and Zinchenko or even Ake and Zinchenko.
I think you can get away with that. I think that's very viable for the much cheaper price than Cancelo. Now, we know Cancelo's attacking upside is almost unlimited. I'd say like it could I wouldn't be surprised ever if he got 2 or 3 attacking returns in a game. I think that would be perfectly reasonable. But well, we've seen it, haven't we? But I think yeah, for the saving it, like Zinchenko and Laporte definitely works for this round of 16 portion where Walker's banned for both legs. I think that's perfectly safe. So could we maybe do that and save some money?
Yeah, let's do that. Yep.
Let's give it a go. Why not? Yeah, I really like those 2 prices. And then I think it might be better to actually just put a cheap goalie in on this team and just, as we talked about, the saves are very highly rewarded on FanTeam. And I think we might be able to take advantage of that with perhaps not someone who we already have a player from, because we don't want to like cap our upside of like Zinchenko getting an attacking return, for example, or whatever. So I'd probably steer clear of like the Sporting keeper, but we could maybe go for like the Salzburg keeper or the Benfica keeper or something like that. Just there's a plethora of these goalies who are like 6.5 and below, and I think they're very reasonable to pick, knowing that they'll likely make like 6 saves in one of the 2 games, for example. So yeah, I mean, maybe even I think Handanovic is a little bit expensive from Inter. I think 7 against Liverpool is a bit too much to pay, I think. But
yeah,
we could maybe just back the Sporting goalkeeper at 6 million or the Salzburg goalie at 6 million. I think if they make 10 saves, we're laughing. And I think we've probably outscored all the other goalies for points per million, I think. So maybe come back to that right at the end. See how much
I don't even massively mind the little goalkeeper at 6 million as well, because I mean, Chelsea haven't exactly been firing on all cylinders attacking wise, have they? You know, with Lukaku and Werner, Havertz, they're the team where I think out of the 3, maybe they're gonna struggle to score. I think their defense is solid, but can I see Chelsea scoring 4 or 5 goals? Probably not. Whereas Bayern and City are probably more capable of doing that.
Yeah, let's put Gerbic in at 6. He's got the 2 safety nets below him. If there's any reason why he doesn't play either leg, I always worry about the safety net. I think I maybe overthink about it, but I think it's nice to just be able to sit your team and not worry, just not have to worry about it. And just like, I know we get 3 transfers, which is very, very generous, by the way. I think that'll give some people who are more forward thinking some like slots to do like a triple, have a triple move eyed up, you know what I mean, for leg 2. What's your thoughts on that? Like, do you think we're supposed to switch from like players who play at home in the first leg to players who play at home in the second leg? Do you think that makes sense as a way of using the 3 moves?
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. But when you've got a team like, when you've got, maybe later on down the line, but at the moment, when you've got Chelsea v Lille and City versus Sporting and Bayern with a good fixture, you probably don't need to move them on. Like you say, I think at this stage, you plan for both fixtures. But then I think maybe as, when we get a bit further down, it's PSG v Madrid or stuff, then you start targeting those home games a bit more. That's probably how I'm going to think to play it anyway.
Yeah, I'm thinking like the 3 transfers might be really nice if we see a case where Man City win the first leg 5-0, for example, and they might just rest a lot of players in the second leg. That might be a way of like moving those players to players who have a bit more to play for and who've still got favourable fixtures. So I think we can just adjust with the 3 transfers and almost see them as like bonus things at the moment. Like don't really like book in too many transfers just in case you get an injury to a player you want to captain. Because as we've talked about, like the safety net doesn't protect you from your captain and vice captain. So if Salah doesn't play and you end up getting Mane, for example, you will not, and you captain Salah, you will not get Mane as captain. You'll still get your vice captain as captain. So you still need a really nailed captain and vice captain, basically, is what I'm trying to say. So that might be what. Yeah. Go on, mate.
I was going to say, one thing I like about this format with the picking 11 rather than a whole squad is how easy it is to change your formations as well. Because you mentioned the home and the away. Well, what you can do is if you're expecting, say Chelsea win 1-0 or something, they're probably going to go out and try and hold on to that victory, and keep it tight in the second game. Whereas if a team, wins 3 or 4-0, or if a team, loses quite heavily, they're going to have to try and score more goals. Then you can switch your defenders out of those teams, and you know what I mean. You can kind of target. You can see what happens in the first leg, and you can make a kind of educated guess about how some of the games are going to go in the second, and maybe move your teams around like that, because you haven't got to swap a defender for a defender or a mid for a striker. You can be more flexible.
To add to your point as well, so in this team, what we've got on the screen at the moment, we've obviously got double City defence and 1 Chelsea defender.
Yeah.
if we were say behind after the first leg, or if we didn't have such a good game week 7 as we call it, we could potentially move, as you said, 2 midfielders to 2 Chelsea defenders and suddenly have a Chelsea triple up at the back.
Yeah.
There's no stacking penalty on this game, which is what we're used to on the Monsters, isn't it? Where you lose points for picking double and triple defenders.
Yeah,
so that's a big advantage to being able to triple up. Whereas sometimes we only go for double ups on the Monster games for the stacking penalty reason.
Yep. Very nice.
Yeah.
Any more? Well, we've done defence. Moving into mid now.
Yeah, let's do mid. I think this is where we want to spend all our money, mate, to be honest. This is a very powerful position on FanTeam because, well, the same as FPL, you obviously get the clean sheet points. You obviously get the extra point for the goal. And yeah, I just think mid, as we've seen on FPL this year, midfielders have just been absolutely crushing the forwards. And I can't see why, especially for the Premier League teams, that wouldn't apply to the Champions League as well. Some midfielders are like, we've already talked about the Man City midfielders. I think you can pick any of them as long as they've got a good safety net, and just be happy with your personal choice there and just hope it's your one that goes off, like we saw with Sterling at the weekend, for example. What's your thoughts on the Man City midfielders? Is there always one you always default to? Is there one you really like? Or?
Well, I like Sterling at 11. I mean, Mahrez is an interesting one because Mahrez, tends to always have amazing stats in any game he plays, and the only worry with him really is the minutes, which obviously are then mitigated by the safety net. So, I mean, De Bruyne's at 12, which I think is a lot when you can have Mahrez or Sterling and have that safety net before. And Foden at 10.5, I'd rather have Mahrez or Sterling, I think, than either of those two. I think I'd go for Sterling, to be honest, though, at 11. I think given the hat-trick he's just scored and the way he's been playing recently.
Sterling's got a safety net of Foden, right? That'll be the next one down, yeah?
Exactly.
Sterling's perfect then. I think that's almost the perfect pick. I agree with you. I think De Bruyne is normally priced higher just because of the nailedness thing we talk about. Because I think individually, when Mahrez and Sterling, if we knew Mahrez and Sterling were starting, I think they should all be like neck and neck, really. So I think it makes sense to take the 1 million price saving and go for Sterling, I think, on De Bruyne specifically.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah,
yep.
There's our 3 Man City sorted. There we go.
There you go. Nice. Yep.
Yeah, so there's a lot that I think are good prices here. So I think Bruno's a good price at 10 million, for example.
Oh God.
I think if there was anyone from I'm really not high on Ronaldo, for example, because I think he's quite a bit more expensive. Is he 10.5? I think he's 10.5. Yeah, he's 0.5 more. I also don't actually mind for this game, with this, bearing in mind we've got the safety net, the 2 wingers. So obviously Sancho and Rashford, they've both got a safety net of Pogba, which I think is good as well. Like I don't think that's bad for like 9 million and 8.5. I think if you were like struggling and needed to fill that exact price point, I think one of those is what I would go for, like as your like 11th player. You know what I mean?
I'm really surprised you're mentioning United players, though, given how just awful they've been for ages. And Atletico, I mean, Atletico are struggling a bit in the league, aren't they? But they're still a solid side that I would say is one of the worst teams United could be grouped with in this, because they just can't break teams down.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying, and I think that these prices reflect the strength of the opposition. I think, like, because this is not an easy tie for United at all. Okay, can I tempt you with someone like Tadic then? How about Tadic, who's got Benfica? Can I tempt you with him?
I do love Tadic. I see Tadic at 10.5. He's ahead of like Fernandes, and I remember Tadic back in the Premier League when he was at Southampton, and I owned him like all the time because he always used to be someone who you thought could get 20 plus points, right? And then he's gone to Ajax. He's actually delivering on that now, and that's why this price is so high for him. I think this is an open game, Benfica Ajax. I think Tadic is a great shout.
Yeah, they've got another midfielder called Anthony. I think he's called A. Moraes on this or something. He's like 9 million anyway.
Yep.
I really like him as well. He's been at the very centre of it with Tadic and Haller. So the 3 of them, between them, have just been getting loads of attacking returns throughout the group stages. If people can't afford Tadic for whatever reason, I'm more than happy picking Anthony in his place, kind of thing, as a side note.
We'll put Tadic in. If we need the money, then we'll go for your Anthony pick.
Anthony, yeah, sounds good. Given that we talked about the ease of the Chelsea fixture, again, I think picking one of their midfielders is completely up for grabs, given we've got the safety net. I think, again, this really benefits Chelsea because we're always worried about them not playing, aren't we? But I think picking someone like Kai Havertz at 9.5, he's got a safety net of Jorginho and Pulisic. Like, you'd prefer Pulisic, of course, but I think having both of those, at least Jorginho's got penalties. I think Havertz is quite a strong pick, and I think he could potentially start. I skipped Mount just because he's a little bit more expensive, and again, I think he's only more expensive because he's more nailed, and I think that's sort of mitigated by the safety net. So
Mount's 11, and he's injured potentially as well, isn't he? Which is why he's not listed as available.
It's just too high for my liking. I just think 9.5 is a much kinder price when you know you're going to get someone from Chelsea in a favourable fixture. So I think
it's a high price for Ziyech as well. Ziyech at 10 million.
Again, I just dodged him. He is playing very well, but I just think you can make the saving a bit more. And I think someone could even gamble on Pulisic.
Yeah, I was thinking that because with Hudson-Odoi below him as well.
Yeah, because you'll get Jorginho if Pulisic doesn't play. Is my thinking. So maybe people aren't as attracted to that. Maybe they think that's a bit boring having such a defensive safety net. But he will get 90 minutes likely, and he is on penalty, so it's not the worst safety net to have. Havertz or Pulisic, I'm happy for you to take.
I'm going to go for Pulisic.
Yeah, I don't mind that at all.
I like it with the safety net. I mean, he has been, given where he was 2 seasons ago, he was in all our FPL teams, playing amazingly well. And then last year, I thought he was really going to kick on, under Lampard, and didn't at all. And then this year, he's such a bit part player. It's such a shame. I mean, they paid about, 50, 60 million for him. I'd like to see him get back to it. I mean, the midfield is so stacked, isn't it? I mean, Ziyech, Pulisic, Hudson-Odoi, these are such good players who you just never know who's gonna start. So it's a good game, I think, to take a bit of a punt on one of them.
Yeah, as you said, they're unpickable on FPL, but on this, they're very, very pickable. Are we going to put Salah in? We've been talking around it for a bit. We haven't mentioned the guy.
I think he's surely the most expensive player. Oh, he's not. No, Lewandowski is the most expensive, 13 million.
He's the most expensive mid, though, right?
He's the most expensive mid at 12.5. Yeah.
But he's got the safety net of Mane. I think it's good.
You've got to have him, haven't you? You've got to have him. I mean, Inter Milan, I mean, they're a good side. To the top of Serie A, are they? I'm
not sure if Inter are top at the moment. I know it's all very close. So they're doing okay. Yeah,
but they're not Burnley. They're not going to play as well as Burnley did yesterday. I wouldn't imagine. So I think you've got to have Salah, personally.
Yeah, AC Milan are top actually by 1 point, but Inter have got a game in hand. So it's all very close, as I said. It's a 3-way race between them and Napoli, the 2 Milans and Napoli. So yeah.
What about Trent? I mean, we haven't got Trent. I mean, Trent at 8.5 does seem. Well, I think it seems pretty decent.
Yeah, I think Liverpool will have too much for Inter Milan still, over the 2 legs especially. Do I see a clean sheet? I think 1 again out of 2. I think 1 out of 2 is very feasible. And the thing with Robertson and Trent is you've got the dual threat. You can't deny that you've got the clean sheet threat and a massive, massive threat of an attacking return. So I think 8.5 is very reasonable, considering we're seeing the likes of Mount at 11 as like a comparable price. I think like everyone's been bumped up a little bit, and we knew Trent would be 8.5, the same as Cancelo actually. So, I don't mind Trent at all.
Because I think a 4-5-1, given the striking problems that we've got, could be the most viable way to go, right?
I think so, yeah. I think compared to the group stages, we're in a bit of a better position with the strikers, and I'll talk about that. It's because they've changed a few players' positions.
Okay.
So Jota's a striker on this. Muller's a striker on this from Bayern. So Lewandowski's finally got his safety net that we've been dying for. And Jota's got a safety net of Firmino. Again, I think that's really good for Liverpool. I think those are 2 really quite nice changes FanTeam have made there to make Jota and Firmino like both sort of in play, I guess, if you get Firmino on for Jota as a safety net. So, I don't mind that at all. So I think we maybe want to leave 1 slot up front for like a bit of a premium, as I alluded to, maybe a Jota, maybe a Lewandowski or something.
Yep.
So how much have we got left for the 2 slots now?
We've got 21 million. So,
so we might need someone around 8 million, aren't we? Or like 7, even if we were going for Lewandowski. Or I think, how much is Jota? Is he 11?
Jota is 11.
Yeah, I thought so. So we could maybe do Jota and then a 10 million mid. I think that works really nicely as well to
So
fill the team.
triple Liverpool.
Yeah, I do fancy Liverpool to get through, as I said. I mean, I love Jota with the safety net. If obviously Jota was Liverpool's only striker on the game, I would never pick him. I think that's a bit too risky because he's definitely not nailed. But especially on a team like this, where I think it's looking like Salah would be our captain or vice captain. So, like, if you're going for Salah captain, I think Jota and Trent have got a good chance of having something to do with some of the goals, you know what I mean, that are scored. So, I think it's nice to just go for it. Yeah, I'm just looking through my list here. So, Vinicius isn't bad from Real Madrid. I think he's good. He's like the top of the safety net as well. So, you'll get any Real Madrid midfielder up below him. I also don't mind Modric and Kroos now. I know they've got the tough fixture, like that. This is why we get a bit of a discount on the Real Madrid players, I think. But I'm tempted to think that the PSG games will be wide open.
Really?
The PSG Real Madrid games, yeah. I still think PSG's main strength is their attack, as we talk about, like with the front three, with even Wijnaldum and the creative players in behind. So I could see PSG scoring early, for example, or scoring a couple early, and Real Madrid having to respond and commit bodies forward. So,
just to touch on PSG quickly, because I think a lot of people are going to be looking at their attack. I mean, Mbappe 11-5, Messi 11, Neymar 10-5. So they're the three main ones. So there's, Mbappe is the most expensive one, down to Neymar at 10-5. And then in mid, I mean, you've got Di Maria at 9-5, and then Wijnaldum. But really, I think people are going to be looking at those front three. I like Mbappe against Madrid. I think I tend to agree with you. It's a difficult game to call because I think either team could go through, but Mbappe is going to be fired up for that, isn't he? He wants
and Mbappe's got an all right safety net as well. I think he's called Messi. I think so. Like I think Mbappe is just an ideal pick on this. I literally wrote down Lewandowski, Jota, and Mbappe as one of the strikers I want. And
I don't like the Jota pick personally. I think with Trent and Salah, I think we've got enough. I think we need to go. I think we go for either Mbappe or Lewandowski. I mean, like Dom says in the chat, going without Lewandowski against Salzburg, that feels scary.
We might have to adjust some money here a little bit because I sort of like Lewandowski and Mbappe. Like, I know I talked about there not being many strikers, but I think these two are very good strikers that we've got. Like, it's a bit better than the premiums we've got on FPL at the moment, again, as I keep talking about. So if we plugged in Mbappe and Lewandowski, I think we'd be about 2 million over, wouldn't we, or something like that?
We'd be more than that, I think. We would be...
How much is Lewandowski?
With 3.5 million over.
Oh God, yeah. It's just I just don't think it works, does it? I think you have to either pick one or the other, or lose Salah or Sterling. Which I don't know if I want to lose Salah or Sterling.
I think we go with Lewandowski and leave Mbappe, and I think we look at getting one of your Real Madrid players that you mentioned, probably Kroos.
Yeah, I like Kroos and I like Modric are the same price. They're the same price, yeah, and they're each of the safety net again, as I keep talking about. Like, they're both first choice, but if one doesn't start, you'll get the other at least.
So that means we're just 500k over.
Yeah. Again, can we just do Robertson instead of Trent? I mean, that's probably fine, right?
I think probably, yeah. Which is a shame, but you've got to make sacrifices somewhere. So our team on the screen for podcast listeners is Grubic, who's the little goalkeeper against Chelsea. Rudiger, Laporte, Zinchenko, Robertson, Sterling, Tadic, Pulisic, Salah, Kroos, and Lewandowski. So only 4 players from outside English team. So we are back in the English team to go through in this. I like it.
Yeah, I'll just mention a few players who haven't quite made our cut, who are like for the non-English. I mean, Halle has obviously been unbelievable, as we talked about before. I think.
Well, he's the reason neither of us won any money in the group stages, because neither of us had him.
Absolutely, yeah. He's been unbelievable. I think he's fantastic. Obviously, not to write off Benzema either. I think Benzema is the focal point still for Real Madrid. I do favour Mbappe and Lewandowski and even Jota personally, but I know you're higher on the other two, I think. If people need a bit of budget relief for a cheap striker, I think Adeyemi from Salzburg, Yaremchuk and David or Yilmaz. So David and Yilmaz are for Lille. I think all of those are perfectly reasonable. They're all 7.5 or 7 million.
Yeah,
People
cheap.
are going to need that slot, I think, with all the premiums that are so attractive. So I think if people need that, I like those three. And I think you just pick the one where you're not playing a defender on the other side of the game, I think.
Yeah.
So Adeyemi's playing Bayern, for example. I think I'd go for him in this team because we have no Bayern defence. I think that would make sense. We've got the Lille goalie. I know people are going to probably mention this. We've got the Lille goalie against the Chelsea attacker, but I think with the Lille goalie, we sort of know they're going to concede. We're just going for like lots of saves. So I think it's fine to play that pairing against each other in this exact case. But yeah, other than that, I think we're all good. Gnabry, I think, is a better pick than Sane in midfield. Sane's his safety net. He's like 0.5 cheaper. So I would pick Gnabry knowing you'll get Gnabry or Sane if Gnabry doesn't play for whatever reason. I still really like that pick as well. And then
they've got a ridiculous team Bayern, haven't they?
Yeah, they're really good. And
yeah,
again, they're another team where we want the safety net, I think, in play because just in case one of the world-class players replaces another world-class player, you know what I mean? So I think for City, Chelsea and Bayern, that is particularly relevant. The other one I like is if people don't play double City defence, let's say people want to play a couple of midfielders from Man City, I think Goncalves from Sporting has been their absolute talisman. So he's 7 million. I think, again, if people are looking for a real cheap option, it's good to at least have the talisman from a team who are playing against a tough opposition. But he could easily score a goal or two, I think.
He's not expected to start on FanTeam. Is that
no,
an injury?
I saw he had a red dot, but he's the top of the safety net. Like everyone's below him for that team. I would want him, even if he doesn't play this game, I would want him for the second leg, for example, versus all the others. So I think I would still go with him. The other defence I kind of like is Juventus. So if people want a bit of budget relief, I think Juventus aren't a bad shout at all. Obviously, Szczesny and Bonucci both seem well priced, I think, for
7 million for
nailed
Bonucci,
players.
7.5 for Szczesny.
For Juventus, who aren't having a good season in the league, but are renowned for being quite okay defensively, I think those are nice prices, given the matchup as well. So, yeah, I don't mind Juventus at all.
Very nice, Josh. Good homework you've done there, which is a lot better than I've done. I think it's going to be fascinating. I think we haven't really spoken too much about Atletico Madrid United, but I think Atletico as well are a team that I potentially look at their defence because their defence is pretty cheap. I mean, 7 million for some of their players, in keeping with like the likes of Laporte. I just think United are so poor offensively at the moment. And okay, Ronaldo's been single-handedly saved United in the Champions League, but he's gone off the boil so much since they were in the group stages. I just wonder if he's going to be able to bail them out and if they're actually going to score any goals.
Yeah, I think this is a key fantasy lesson, Stefan. I think sometimes you have to just back a read that you have a little bit, and like I don't have a strong read on the Atletico Man City and Man United game, so I'm just sort of avoiding it, and I think it's fine to do that as well. But I think if you really fancy Atletico for a clean sheet, that could be a really nice way of being different to other people. Because I think United always tend to be quite popular on some fantasy games. As I said, I think their assets are quite reasonable. So if you take the other side of that, you're making even more ground on the people who've picked the Man United assets if you get lucky with the clean sheet. So yeah, I really like that as a line as well, I think. And I know, so I always talk about 90 minutes for FanTeam, don't I? Because you get the one bonus point on FanTeam for the 90 minutes. It's not as big a factor in the Champions League because every team gets 5 subs. Now, 5 subs tend to be used on at least 3 or 4 of the attacking positions. And obviously, it's only the midfielders and strikers who get the 90-minute bonus. So I think it's less relevant. But if you can find these gems who never, ever, ever, ever get subbed, I think that could be a nice way to get points on like 80, 90% of the field who are just having their players subbed off every game, because I think even the likes of like Bruno and Ronaldo, who we expect to get 90 a lot, they definitely have the opportunity and chance to be subbed in these games with the 5 subs in play.
Yep. No, nice. So it's probably worth looking through some previous matches and seeing who's played 90 in pretty much all the games, because it's obviously it's difficult to predict, because if a team's winning comfortably, they might want to sub the best players, give them a bit of a rest if they've got the league commitments, or if a team's not playing well and you go for one of the fringe players, they're the ones that are going to come off early for different attackers. So yeah, it's tricky to predict, but like you say, it's why these kind of talisman players are so like vital in this kind of game.
Yeah, if you can trawl through sort of the let's talk about Benfica as a random example. If you can look through all the Portuguese league data for the last 10 games, there might be a Benfica player that's played 90 minutes every game for the last sort of 20, 30 games. I'm not sure. I haven't seen it myself, but there might be a few gems in there that will get you so many more points, like just that one extra point a game from now to the final, with all the different, obviously, wild cards that you get to play and stuff. I think that could be a real difference maker in, let's face it, a tournament where I think it's going to be very close between a lot of the people at the top. So you really, really, really want to be getting off to a good start in this one, I think, because it's going to be hard to differentiate later on to a massive degree.
Agreed. Yeah. Josh, awesome stuff as always. Thanks to everyone in the chat for watching, and everyone listening on the podcast version as well. Josh, good luck tomorrow with this. Gonna make sure my team's entered tonight. I'll probably do a late reg team as well, to be honest. But yeah, ever hopeful we go into these. But yeah, we need to do better than we did in the group stages.
We do. I'm sure we will, mate. So yeah, fingers crossed. And good luck everybody who's obviously giving this a go.
Last one. Thanks, and see you soon.